Revelation 21:8. But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And the second death is close at hand. Call halal Yahweh Bashan Shai Bahasham Brakah Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird among the heathen nations, that look like the heathen nations. And to the Akwath that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And as you can see on the screen, this is the book Facts of Facts by Benjamin R. Freedman, who was an Amalekite. He's Jewish, or he turned Christian, turned his back on the Judean faith, and calls himself exposing them. As a matter of fact, if you look at the top of the book with Facts of Facts, it even reads Galatians 4:16, which reads, "Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" And that's a heavy thing to do, to put on the cover of the book. But this was just a case of Psalm 64:8, because he's uplifting Christianity as if Christianity has been a great thing to the world. All right? Because what all of this happened is that Christianity was doctored up, changed, and revised to enforce white superiority. They lied about history, lied about particular characters and people in history, in particular lands. You know, most people in America, in the West anyway, don't know that most European nations were ruled over by so-called black people. That the Europeans, mostly in Europe, are not indigenous to there. They took it over, same way they took over the Americas, from Canada to Brazil. All right, because you best believe in all those South American countries, the majority of the leaders in those countries are Edomites, are white people with Hispanic names. Okay, so is very few people who are indigenous that are actually in power, sitting in power seats, or the wealthy. So, just like the so-called white man took over South Africa and Australia, he annihilated almost every soul in Tasmania. When's the last time you seen anybody from Tasmania? All right. Any of them that were left, were carted away and have mixed in with the Australian population, though they were the same people. But, So, matter of fact, let's get that. And I'm just going to, because I'm reading this book. I've always wanted this book. And shout out to the brother Zahar Yahweh, the water brother. Much love to you. I appreciate these books that you sent me. The brother Amwan Abad helped orchestrate that. But the books got to me. The water brother, I really appreciate these books. That 1850 American Bible has literally become my prized possession, man. That Bible has the Apocrypha in it, and it was printed in 1850. And that was shortly after the Bible Destruction Group, or before because I think, if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that in 1851 was when the Bible Destruction Group finally succeeded in that 100-year that 100-year fight that they had to remove the Apocrypha from the Bible. And I believe it was from like 1750 to 1750 to 1851 or something like that. All right. So, and why? Because the Apocrypha reveals the so-called white man. All right. It gives you the names. It lets you know that they're Esau, Edom. It also makes it beyond clear that the Bible was a book for the Israelites. It's the buffer between the Old Testament and the New Testament, which makes the New Testament make more sense, and clarifies that the Gentiles were the Hellenistic Jews, Southern Kingdom, that was spread out throughout the rest of the world. All right, that was that were scattered in the other nations, and that those it gives you the history of how they were Hellenized and how they lost their heritage, and or willingly gave up their heritage for these new identities, which are these new forms and indoctrinations and ways of life, and they pass it on to their children. And then in a period of 400 years of living like this, they forgot who they were. And so the people who, so the Israelites, the Judeans, who cleaved unto their heritage, when the awakening, the first awakening of these Israelites that were scattered, that were calling themselves Greeks and Grecians, that were being referred to as Gentiles. You have to be able to tell the difference when you read the Bible between a natural Gentile, which is the other nation, and the natural Gentiles, which are the Israelites. And I say all this to tell you that Benjamin Freedman, he prescribes to that Christianity, which Christianity is for everyone, but the Bible is not. All right? Because the message of salvation to the Gentiles and to the strangers, all right, were Israelite foreigners that were coming back into their heritage, or being let known, or being made known to them that they were Israelites. And that very important detail Christianity left out of the Bible. As a matter of fact, on page, and I'm still going to get that Psalm 64 and 8, but on page 5, there's a saying, and in the fourth paragraph, it says, on the other hand, truth has many times been completely blacked out by repeating contradictory and conflicting untruths over and over again and again and again. The world's recent history supplies sober testimony of the dangers to civilization inherent in that technique that form the treason to truth is treachery to mankind. You must be very careful, my dear Dr. Goldstein, not to become unwittingly one of the many accessories before and after the fact who have appeared upon the scene of public affairs in recent years. So basically what he was saying this was about the Jewish people, not the Judeans. There is a difference. All right. Being Jewish and being a Judean is not the same thing. Remember the 1925, the 1971, and the 1905 Jewish encyclopedias all pretty much tell you that modern day Jewry is Edom. All right. It told you that you used to, that definition is hard to find on the internet now, but it used to tell you when you looked up Israeli that they were not to be, that they were the modern day citizens of Israel, not to be confused with the ancient Israelites. So they were willingly letting you know that they're not the same people. Okay, but this is and that's him. He's just telling no other Edomites, because the Jewish people and the Christians are all Edomites. All right, and there's clearly, as I've been saying for quite a few years now, there is a war between Christianity and Judaism, and they don't like to admit it or talk about it, but there is. This is Psalm 64 and 8, and it reads, so they shall make their own tongues to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And so Benjamin Freedman his tongue was just falling upon himself by telling on his brethren. All right. By telling on the Jewish people. All right. By exposing Zionism and all that. They're all Jewish people, and they can all be traced back to Amalek, who is the son of Esau, Edom. All right, and these things are coming out now, and this is a problem. All right, this is very much a problem. Okay, so now what part of this book was I in when he read? Oh, right here. This is in the introduction. I was reading. This is on page 10, and it says, because this history was not known, and what makes it so powerful is that Benjamin Freedman, he being the fact that he was born, Jewish, and he was, believe he was born in the 1880s. He was born, and so he was an adult when all these things were happening. All right, and he became a very successful and wealthy man, and for some reason, he decided to become a Christian or whatever, a Catholic or whatever, and started exposing all these dirty secrets about his own people and how they actually abhor Christianity, and it's true. They really do. the rabbis, the Jewish rabbis, they're really against Christianity. But there is a such thing as Judeo-Christianity. That's what Christopher Columbus brought when he came over here. He brought lies with him. You see, because Christianity came with the doctrine. And that doctrine is not the doctrine of the Bible. Christianity was clearly, Judeo-Christianity was set up to support white superiority. And that has been the link and the get along, the peacekeeper between Christians and white Christians and white Jewish people. All right? Because though their doctrines are different and Judaism is completely against the Bible and completely against who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ, completely against the testament of his life when he walked the earth, which is the New Testament. And all the New Testament is the testament of the Lord teaching the Old Testament and the Apocrypha, right? Because he mentions things that are in the Apocrypha, which is why I'm so in love with that Bible, because in this Bible, the Apocrypha actually has precepts in it, like the rest of the Bible. And it's precepting, New and Old Testament. All right? And vice versa. Okay, so you can't get around this truth, man. But here on page 10 in the introduction, all right, it says, I started the third paragraph. It says, and I'm gonna read, through to the end, and a little bit into the other page. But it says the Balfour Declaration was merely Great Britain's promise to pay the Zionists what they had agreed upon as consideration for getting the United States into the war. So that this great Balfour Declaration that you hear so much about is just as phony as the $3 bill. I don't think I could make it more empathetic than that. And just like, I may mention what's going on with Andrew Tate right now, the former kickboxer. I didn't even know Andrew Tate was a former kickboxer, but he's been arrested on, charges of rape or human trafficking, female trafficking, or something to that effect. And it could be true, but I seriously doubt it. They're just angry. They've already, warned him once to shut up because he's very successful and he's following in the same steps of Kevin Samuels, this awareness to men and not to basically put women on a pedestal. The Bible is a patriarchal book. The Lord is a patriarchal God. All right. Christianity brought Mary worship into it. Well, at least Catholicism did, was brought into woman worship. And the Bible clearly tells you the woman's not even supposed to speak in the church. That's 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter, but yet Christianity has female pastors. 1 Timothy tells you that the second chapter tells you that a woman is never supposed to be in a position of authority over a man. But yet the Western world has women in the workplace where they're in positions of authority over the man, which is basically which is outright opposition and outright rebellion to the word of God. Because what it's doing is it's changing the dynamics between the man and the woman and man, woman, and God. It's messing up the order of things. It's destroying and breaking up families. All right? I was just looking at there's probably more female doctors at this point than there are male doctors. Okay? Why? Because especially among minorities, or maybe I would say that among so-called minorities. Why? Because among so-called minorities, more favor is given to women to get certain positions, to get certain loans for school and things of that nature than it is men. The men are highly scrutinized and have to go through jump over higher hurdles to get to the same place as a woman. And then the women always have the ability to, especially if she's attractive, to be successful, to succeed, to be successful, if you know what I'm saying. All right, but I believe that that's one of the reasons why they're attacking Mr. Tate here. All right. As you can see, it's all over the internet that he's been arrested. Breaking news, Andrew Tate and brother arrested in Romania in human trafficking probe. And I don't think any of it's true at all, And I hope that it isn't, but I don't. But not only do I hope that it isn't, I don't believe that it is, because this guy is really about. When you hear him talk, all he's about is the man taking care of his family, being a provider, and being over his wife or his women. That's it. That's it. And the fact that Andrew Tate is also a so-called black man, his father is black. So-called black. His father's an Israelite. So that's another strike against him. A lot of people don't know that. They think that he's a white guy, proving what I always say, that, there are people that are scattered among the heathen. Your identity is through the seed of your father. It does not matter what your outward appearance looks like. And Christianity never taught that very important fact. And why? Because it pushes white superiority, right? And it pushes woman worship. So let's go back. We can jump back into the book. But it says that is where all the trouble started. The United States got into the war. The United States crushed Germany. And this is World War I believe. All right, this is World War I. What happened when the war ended, and the Germans went to Paris for the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, and there were 117 Jews there, and not Judeans but Jews, as the delegation presenting the Jews headed by Bernard Baruch. I was there. I ought to know. See, so he was there. That's what makes this testament from Mr. Freedman so powerful, because first of all, he was a Jew or Jewish, and he was alive and there when these things were happening. The man was born in 1880, so in 1919, this man is damn near 40 years old, all right, and he was there when these things were happening, all right. And it says, now what happened? With a question mark. The Jews at the peace conference, when they were cutting up Germany and parceling out Europe to all these nations who claimed the right to certain part of the European territory, how about Palestine for us? And they produced for the first time the knowledge of the Germans, this Balfour Declaration, right? So for the first time to the Germans, they didn't even know about this backdoor deal. So the Germans for the first time realized, oh, so that was the game. That's why the United States came into the war. The Germans for the first time realized that they were defeated. They suffered the terrific reparations that were slapped onto them because the Zionists wanted Palestine and were determined to get it at any cost. That brings us to another very interesting point. When the Germans realized this, they naturally resented it. Up to the time, the Jews had never been better off in any country in the world than they had been in Germany. You had Mr. Rathenthal there, who was maybe 100 times as important in industry and finance as in Bernard Baruch in this country. You had Mr. Bowling, who owned the two big steamship lines, the North German Lloyd and the Hamburg American lines. You had Mr. Blacksroder, who was the banker for the Hohenzollern family. You had the Wahlbergs in Hamburg, who were the big merchant bankers, the biggest in the world. The Jews were doing very well in Germany. No question about that, the Germans felt. Well, that was quite a sellout. It was a sellout that might be compared to the hypothetical situation. Suppose the United States was at war with the Soviet Union and was winning. And we told the Soviet Union, well, let's quit. We offer you peace terms. Let's forget the whole thing. And all of a sudden, Red China came into the war as an ally of the Soviet Union. Throwing them into war brought about our defeat, a crushing defeat, with reparations of which man's imagination cannot encompass. Imagine after that defeat, if we were found out that it was the Chinese in the country, our Chinese citizens, who all the time we had thought were loyal citizens working with us was selling us out to the Soviet Union, that it was through the Red China was brought into the war against us, how would we feel? Then United States, then in the United States against China, I don't think that one would dare show his face on any street. All right, they wouldn't be enough convenient lampposts to take care of them. Imagine how we feel. So basically, what he's saying is they would be hanging Chinese from lampposts all over America if that was the case here in America. And that's what happened to the Germans with the Jewish citizens that were in their country, and that's how they felt. And you can imagine what that led to going up into World War II. But in social studies, this was never taught in school. All right, so this is a very powerful book with a lot of really good information. So let me grab one more scripture, and I'm gonna continue to read in this book, and through the power of Yahweh Shem Shai, I continue to do lessons with all these books that that I got in that box. I think it was about 7 or 8 books in there, and I decided to read this one first. And of course, I can't take my hands off that precious Bible. But oh yeah, let me go grab one of my favorite scriptures in Deuteronomy 30 and 29, or 33:29. And it reads, Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by Yahweh, the shield of thy help, and who is the sword of thy excellency. Thy enemy shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. All right? And their high places that they hide behind is a wall of lies. And we're treading on it, and we're tearing that wall down. So with that, I want to give all praises, all honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakodash, and Shalom.